Hey there, welcome back to Flat Tire Farm. Today I'm going to show you how to can frozen corn. Okay, this is a case of organic frozen corn that I got from Azure Standard. Now I've used some of it already. I have some set aside for another project for today, corn and black bean salsa that I'm going to can, but that's for another time. But I need to get these things out of my freezer because it's fall and that means it's hunting and fishing season, and also we have some animals that need to go to Camp Kenmore. So I got to get my freezer empty. So what I'm going to do is can this corn in quart jars. Now most people I think would use them in pint jars, but I have a metric junk ton of quart jars and not so many pint jars downstairs. So we're going to do quart jars today. I'll also tell you how you would do it in a pint jar. It's really not that much different. So if you were a patient person, you would let all this corn thaw and then you would follow through with the canning process. But if you're Crystal and less than a patient person, you're going to do it a little different. So I'll show you my way. First, I think I'm going to get all this corn in this bowl. It's going to be a little bit easier for me to get into it. Oh, goodness. Hey, we didn't even make that much of a mess. All right. Hey, one kernel. Yes. All right, so we're going to fill our jar with, and leave 1 inch of head space, okay? Now, an inch of head space is this rim that goes all the way around the jar, okay? Not this top rim, but this bottom rim down here. That's an inch all the way to that, okay? Keep filling up our jars. Now I often find that when I buy things from Azure Standard, I can get the organic stuff cheaper than I can get the non-organic stuff locally. And maybe that's because we live in Alaska and things are really expensive, or maybe it's just because it happens to be way cheaper. Now some things are more expensive, but some things, like for those of you that watch our channel, you know that I saved $87 on buying a case of organic bell peppers. So for me, that's a good deal. I'll leave a link in the description below. It'll take you over to Azure Standard and you can check out for yourself, do your own research and see if you can find things cheaper for better quality. Getting organic cheaper than you can get regular non-organic is a good deal for me. All right, so I'm not gonna make you sit here while I fill up all these jars, but our next step is going to be fill these jars with boiling water up till 1 inch of the headspace. Remember, that's this bottom rim down here. All right, before I add the water in, I'm gonna put half a teaspoon of salt in each jar. You wanna use non-iodized salt, like a canning and pickling salt, or kosher salt, or you can just buy this plain salt. I get it from Walmart, it's a non-iodized salt. Canning and pickling salt is significantly more expensive, and this is just the same price as the cheap 88 cents or whatever for the iodized kind. So there's a hint for you. We're gonna pour the water in. We're going to take it to that inch of head space. There we go. All right, now, as you may have already learned, I am not the most patient person in the world and I often go rogue. So let me say this again. Putting frozen corn in a jar and then in your canner is not an approved method. And also, I may be a little impatient sometimes, but I'm not a complete ding-ding. So I am not going to stick frozen corn in my canner. What I'm gonna do is get all these jars ready, make sure that the lids are on, and then I'm just gonna let them sit on the counter until they get to room temperature. All right, let me get all these jars filled. I'm gonna use my big canner today, my 37 quart canner, and I think I can get 11 quarts in there. I'm not gonna make you sit here and watch while I get all of these jars filled, but I'll show you how to put the lids on so that you get a good seal, okay? This paper towel just has a little bit of water on it. Sometimes I use white vinegar if what's in the jar has fat or oil or protein. But this is just corn and water and salt, so I'm not too concerned about it. So I can just use water and that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna take my 2-part lid. I'm gonna take the rubber side, put it down on the rim of the jar. Then I'm gonna tighten this ring finger tight. Now finger tight means, at least to me, that you spin the ring until it just catches on the jar, and then you're gonna tighten it 1/8 of a circumference of the jar or 1/8 of a turn of a jar, okay? All right, this is where we get most of the water for our house. We're going to can that corn in quarts for 85 minutes. Now, if we had enough pint jars and we did it in pints, we would have only had to can it for 55 minutes. So this canner is going to be on the stove, boiling away and steaming away for 85 minutes. So I need to make sure there's enough water in here. Normally you put 2 or 3 inches of water in the bottom. And so I'm just going to make sure I have a really good 3 inches and not shortchange it this time. Okay, we're back at the stove, and I don't get out a little measuring tape and measure how much water's in there to make sure it's 3 inches. I just stick my finger all the way to the bottom and make sure that it comes up over that middle knuckle there, and that I know that's 3 inches, and we're good to go. So now at this point, I am not going to turn on the canner because remember that corn is still frozen in the jars. I'm going to set the jars in here and let it all come to room temperature together, and later on tonight I will turn it on and bring it up to temperature from there. But for what I'm doing today, because I have lots of projects, that lets me put this project aside. It's all done. It'll be all contained in the canner. I can clean up and start on my next project, and I just have to pay attention to when all of this thaws and turns to room temperature. So for me, it'll be a couple of hours, but for you, it'll be just a moment. So I'll see you then. Okay, our frozen corn's been sitting here for, oh, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 hours. It's not frozen anymore. It's all thawed. Okay, we're gonna get the lid on. We're gonna get this started so that it can start venting. Now, venting just means that the pressure canner isn't sealed completely and that we're gonna let it all come up to temperature together, because remember, that water's not hot, the corn's not hot, it's all still pretty cold, although it's not frozen. And when this canner gets warm enough on the inside to boil and steam, then that corn's going to be nice and hot, that water's going to be nice and hot, and steam will start coming out the top. Now for this canner, these little things go up and that makes the vent happen. So you might have a canner that has a little jiggler on top like this, and it has a little vent pipe, and this goes on the way it goes on the vent pipe to pressure can. But mine just has little vents here. So if you need to vent your canner, put the lid on, and don't put this guy on it yet. You gotta wait. So we're gonna let it start venting. It's gonna steam, and when it steams for 10 minutes, then I'll meet you right back. Okay, you can see that we're venting now. I'm gonna close the vents so that the chamber of the pressure canner can start pressurizing. Okay, when it pressurizes, this little weight will jiggle, just like your little jiggler that I showed you before. This is one that just stays on my canner, and this is 10 pounds of pressure. So when that starts jiggling, we're gonna set the timer for 85 minutes, and we're gonna pressure can this for 85 minutes. So I'll see you back in a while. Okay, our timer's beeping. We're gonna turn the stove off and just let this cool down for a while till it depressurizes. See you back in a little bit longer. Okay, we waited long enough that our canner completely cooled. It wasn't my intention, but that's what happened. That's okay. Take this off. See how we did. There we go. Looks like canned corn to me. So this will be good on our shelf for 2 years. Isn't that cool? If you were going to do this in pints, you would cut the amount of salt that we put in there in half, and also it would can for only 55 minutes. As always, thanks for joining us on Flat Tire Farm. I hope you enjoyed my frozen corn video today. Stay tuned for lots more videos. I'll leave a link below for Azure Standard if you're interested in that and any of the equipment that we use today. If you want to help us out, make comments, share videos if you want to share them with your friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you on the next one.